And we call on the committee secretary to acknowledge our resource persons for today.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. For the Governance Commission for Government-Owned and Controlled Corporations, or GCG budget hearing, we have with us the following resource persons. We have the chairman, Attorney Samuel G. Degping Jr., also Commissioner Ms. Marites Cruz Doral. We also have Mr. JPO Abesamis, Director 4 of the Administrative and Finance Office, Attorney Johan Carlos S. Barcena, Director 4 of the Corporate Governance Office B, Attorney Annabel Duca, Director 4 of the Corporate Standards Office, Attorney Irving V. Oxenia, Director 3 and Chief of Staff, Office of the Commission Proper, Attorney Michael D. Pabalinas, Director 4, Legal Office, Attorney Karen Cris L. Tanco Pascasio, Director 3 of the Corporate Standards Office, Ms. Jacqueline D. Ponseca, Director 3 of the Corporate Governance Office A, Attorney Michael M. Valmoria, Head Executive Assistant, Office of the Commission Proper, Attorney Mary M. Baring, Executive Assistant 6, Office of the Commission Proper, Mr. Mark Gregor M. Bencito, IT Officer 3, Ms. Mary Rose A. Zamora, IT Officer 2, and Ms. Bea Nadine V. Barte, Planning Officer 5, Office of the Commission Proper. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Committee Secretary, and I acknowledge again the presence of Attorney Dagbin. Sir, good afternoon po.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yes, let me just give a brief opening statement. I remember when I was assigned to hear this budget in 2019. No? That time we were looking at the success, the challenges, and the ways to improve the operations of GCG. But I remember during that time in 2011, we were talking about how GCG managed to save government in terms of precious resources such as subsidies, as well as savings in operating expenses. And also at that time, the GCG also demonstrated its success through the amount of dividends that it was collecting from, not the GCG, no, but government in general was collecting from the GOCCs. So since 2011 till now, we have already seen how GCG has managed to put discipline and order among the ranks of the GOCCs. But today, this is the last budget hearing of the administration of Attorney Dagpin. Hopefully, I don't know in the charter if the present commissioners can still continue, but definitely from my case and probably from most of you, including Attorney Dagpin, this will be the last budget hearing. No? Next year, we will have a new administration. We will probably have new officers in GCG, new commissioners within GCG, as well as a new senator who will hear the budget of GCG. So today, I would like, aside from hearing the budget of GCG, I would like to focus on the achievements and also the challenges that this GCG administration faced in the last 6 years. So it's also important to talk about the triumphs and the success of this administration, particularly this 2016 to present administration, because that success will also come a lot of challenges, and we want to look at that also in ways to improve the operations of GCG if necessary. No, I'm sure for the last 6 years, over the last 6 years, Attorney Dagpin, you've gathered a lot of experiences and a lot of knowledge about how to improve the operations of GCG, whether through policy or through law. Maybe we should look at ways to improve the law that created GCG moving forward. So today we will start off with discussing the GCG budget. We will talk about particulars of your budget. As we all know, the GCG budget is not so big compared to the other government agencies. That's why we will probably spend a little bit of time in the GCG budget, but the mandate and the breadth of the responsibility of GCG is quite large. No, offices like GCG has a small budget. No, again in relation to the other offices, but the breadth and the responsibility is wide. No, because you're talking about 121 GOCCs under the wings of the GCG. So we will start off again with talking about your budget. So we'll turn over the microphone to Chairman Dagbin to talk about the budget, and then later on we will go into some policy questions and also some details on certain GOCCs that are affecting the operations of the government at large. No? So with that, we'll call on Attorney Dagpin to present the office's budget, and then later on we'll go into questions particularly on policy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the opportunity for the GCG to present its budget for 2022. As a context, in 2016, I was first appointed as a commissioner under CGOB, and in that, as far as I can remember, just like in, I don't know if this is a policy really, when I was appointed with serving to the appointed chairman, there was really no proper onboarding process for the commission handling the GCG. That's why when we were appointed last in 2016, we're trying to make the ends, what we can do. So the learning process was so great and daunting. And I was appointed really as the chairman sometime in the last week of October 2016, when the chairman for this administration resigned. So when I managed at GCG, there are a lot of challenges as to the number of personnel, which not so many, and the responsibility is so great. And there are processes that I have to look into. The process as to our financials, the performance, the IT system, and the previous projects which I inherited. So that's why it's really hard. And in fact, what is really very big challenges is that a lot of GOCCs were abolished previously, and there's no proper division in GCG to handle this matter. So consequently, I managed to put some measures how to cope up. And it's really hard because the GCG really is subject to a lot of being pirated by other offices. So a lot of turnover of people because GCG is not a salary exempt agency. And other GOCCs really are looking into our employees to pirate. So that's why it's very hard. So I'll try to make some adjustment by asking the DBM for additional personnel, including the creation of the asset management division, because as of today, we're doing that in ad hoc manner. So we're taking responsibility from the legal, the corporate governance. So it's really very hard, but still, even in the pandemic, we managed really to take up the challenge by properly handling our IT system. So I really very proud with our IT system because during the pandemic, we put up our VPN system for our document management system. That's why even though it's a work from home uh, situation, we can still cope up with our various challenges and other responsibilities based on our mandate. For this proposed budget, can we present our slide presentation as to start the budget presentation, sir?
Yes, Attorney, you can proceed with your budget proper. And then later on, we can talk about some policy issues and then also talk about ways forward. I'm trying to check your charter. Does the commissioner, do you have a tenure as a
No, no.
commissioner, Chairman?
It's we serve at the pleasure of the president.
So the commissioners don't have any tenure.
Yes.
So okay, this is probably one of the few bodies, commission bodies that do not have tenure. Normally, the ones I come across with are tenured, meaning they usually have 5 or 6 year tenure, no, and then depending on their charter. So that's good. So meaning, depending on who is the next administration, you can continue your term, in GCG.
That's why, sir, I'm planning to have a proper onboarding program for the next commission. I'm asking my team also so that the next commission will not so a little blessed than what we have in 2016. So there's no really proper turnover what we will do. So we have tried to look the programs and other things. It's really very hard. So with that, can I ask Bea Naden Parte to present the proposed 2022 budget of the GCG? Sir, if you may.
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead, Attorney.
Bea?
Yes, Chair.
Can you discuss the budget of the GCG, Bea?
Yes, Chair. Is the presentation seen on
Yeah,
the
yes.
screen? Good afternoon, Senators, and good afternoon, Chairman, Commissioner. This is the proposed 2022 budget of the GCG. We are created under Republic Act number 10149, an act to promote financial viability and fiscal discipline in GOCCs and to strengthen the role of the state in its governance and management to make them more responsive to the needs of public interest and for other purposes. The GCG is directly reporting to the President of the Philippines and coordinates with the supervising agencies of GOCCs in policy and program coordination. We are created as a central advisory, monitoring, and oversight body with authority to formulate, implement, and coordinate policies. We are mandated to rationalize the number and functions of GOCCs pursuant to the Ownership and Operations Manual for GOCCs. We are also mandated to shortlist candidates for appointment to the boards of directors based on the fit and proper rule, to monitor and evaluate the performance of GOCCs, and to set standards for compensation, incentives, and benefits of GOCCs. This is the strategy of the GCG, which was revised and updated by the current commission until the end of their term next year. The vision is to change the GOCC sector to become more responsive to the needs of public interest and in the attainment of enhanced economic growth and development. Currently, the GCG has a coverage of 121 GOCCs. In 2021, we welcomed 3 GOCCs that were previously under the Philippine Commission on Good Government or PCGG. So from 118 last year, our coverage is now 121. There are 29 GOCCs approved for abolition due to inability to produce desired outcomes or to achieve mandates. due to duplicative or overlapping functions and due to non-operation. The number of GOCCs approved for abolition did not change from last year. We are still at 29 GOCCs approved for abolition. Same with privatization. We just added Monte Rosa Development Corporation. And for merger, we added the recently approved merger by the President of the Philippines, the merger of Land Bank and UCPB. Currently, there are 25 non-operational or inactive or deactivated GOCCs. Since there is no change on the number of approved GOCCs for abolition, the cost savings is the same as last year. So the total cost savings from the operational expenses of GOCCs approved for abolition is 3.21 billion pesos. And aside from this, the benefits from the abolition prevented irreversible losses, streamlined the GOCC sector, and removed overlapping functions and GOCCs that no longer produce desired outcomes. In average, these 29 GOCCs were receiving 837.66 million pesos in annual subsidies, or a total of 5.026 billion pesos for 6 years. In terms of our accomplishments, for the response to COVID-19, the GCG issued additional guidelines in the conduct of the customer satisfaction survey of GOCCs for 2021 in view of the pandemic. Internally, the GCG continued providing virtual private network or VPN access to its employees who are working from home to ensure continual and secure online operations during the alternative working arrangements. The GCG also coordinated the Makati Local Government Unit Health Department for the registration of its personnel to the Makati LGU vaccination program. And we continued providing administrative support to our personnel through the procurement and distribution of hygienic and protective supplies for the personnel, implementation of disinfection measures, and provision of transport and shuttle services to the skeleton workforce. For our commitment to the Philippine Development Plan, or the National Competition Policy, more specifically, the GCG reviewed mandates of 72% of the GOCCs under its jurisdiction in terms of competitive neutrality issues as part of our commitment to the National Competition Policy, or Chapter 16 of the PDP. Of those reviewed for 2019, the GCG determined that there were no GOCCs exhibiting dominance in their respective markets that would significantly impact fair competition. And we are a member of the TWG for the competition chapter of the PDP, together with the PCC, NEDA, DOJ, and DTI. For the standardized customer satisfaction survey for the GOCC sector, we have validated the surveys of 72 GOCCs that implemented our standard methodology in 2019. And we recorded that 94% of the compliant GOCCs achieved the minimum target of 80% satisfied customers. This feedback system encourages civic participation and provides a way for the GOCCs to know which of their services need improvement, and it also serves as an indicator of customer satisfaction. So as GOCCs strive to achieve an exemplary rating, they are also driven to continually improve their delivery of services. Regarding the revised compensation and position classification system for GOCCs, we have submitted to the Office of the President a confidential memorandum for information of the President providing an overview of the proposed CPCS last December after separately consulting the DBM and the DOF. In the first quarter of 2021, the Commission on Bank approved the proposed CPCS and created a TWG for further refinement and finalization of the proposal. And finally, on May 6, 2021, the proposed CPCS was approved by the Bank and was submitted to the Office of the President for consideration. And we are currently preparing for the implementation of the CPCS in hope of a favorable action from the President regarding the submitted CPCS. We would also just like to report that we received an unqualified audit opinion for the calendar year 2020 in the recently released annual audit report of the Commission on Audit. And since 2013, we have been receiving an unqualified opinion from the COA for consistently presenting the financial statements following the generally accepted accounting principles and the Philippine public sector accounting standards. So despite the pandemic, we were able to sustain transparent, efficient, and streamlined processes, and the GCG management was able to present financial statements that complied with applicable laws, rules, and regulations. As partners of good governance, we have entered into a partnership with the Department of Trade and Industry to the signing of a memorandum of understanding for the promotion of the Philippine Quality Award program in the GOCC sector. So the PQA is the highest level of national recognition for exemplary organizational performance, and it aims to reinforce positive reforms in achieving outstanding results in the GOCC sector. DTI and GCG will conduct various PQA orientations and training programs, develop an incentive program, and create necessary supplemental programs under the PQA for the continuing development and improvement of GOCCs. For our ongoing programs, regarding the adoption of the quality management system in GOCCs, the GCG has instituted the adoption of the QMS or the ISO 9001:2015 standard in GOCCs to link regular strategy and operations review to process reengineering. So our own quality policy shows our commitment to transform the sector into a significant tool for enhanced economic growth and development. And we implement this policy by adopting the QMS as part of the good governance conditions for GOCCs to be eligible for a performance-based bonus. And this is also included as a target for the performance evaluation system of GOCCs and is verified through the ISO certification of the GOCC. As of May this year, 59 GOCCs obtained an ISO 9001:2015 certification. One of our mandates is the institutionalization or the adoption of an integrated corporate reporting system or the ICRS. In 2020, despite the pandemic, we sustained the implementation of the ICRS, GOCC monitoring system that contains financial information of GOCCs. We were also able to develop the initial version of the Director's Attendance System and Compensation System, or DACS, which is an online tool to record the meeting attendance of GOCC board members, and it manages the computation of the per diem received by each appointed member. For this year, we target to expand the features of the current version of the GMS or the GOCC monitoring system to include a file management facility, which will allow the submission of financial data in comma-separated values or .csv template instead of PDFs. And the system will also utilize the prescribed revised charts of accounts and financial reporting templates for GOCCs issued by the COA. Moreover, we target the completion of the DACS and the development of the Director's Performance Review System, or the DPRS, an online tool to facilitate a more stable, confidential, secure, and reliable database system that will house the performance reviews of all the members of the governing boards of various GOCCs under the GCG. And next year, we will further improve the GMS by developing additional financial report submission modules and the corporate governance portal for better monitoring of GOCC's compliance. And it will also be used as a strategic tool for decision making. And we also target the launching of the DACS and DPRS to the GOCCs. Regarding our actions in relation to the issues in the Philippine Health Insurance Corporation, or PhilHealth, in January this year, we informed the PhilHealth of the need for an urgent partial reorganization and directed it to undertake the necessary study, review, and or evaluation of its existing structure and staffing pattern, among others, for the legal sector, internal audit group, and information management sector of the PhilHealth. We also directed them to submit the other documents necessary for the review and evaluation of their partial reorganization. In July this year, we transmitted Memorandum Order 2021-09 authorizing the creation of 7 regular positions in the PhilHealth's arbitration office. As for the other units, the PhilHealth submitted its proposal to create additional regular plantilla positions for their legal sector, internal audit group, and actuarial services sector, and the creation of a project management team indemnity fund. We have also formally transmitted the memorandum for the President regarding the performance evaluation and determination of the necessity of corporate reorganization of PhilHealth through the directive of the Office of the President in the memorandum from the Executive Secretary dated October 7, 2020, which instructed the GCG to evaluate the performance of PhilHealth in accordance with Republic Act number 10149 and to determine the necessity of the corporate reorganization of the PhilHealth. In terms of financial viability of the GOCCs, we have seen an improvement in the dividend payments of the GOCCs under GCG. As a comparison, before GCG, an average of 23 GOCCs paid an average of 7.22 billion from 2003 to 2011. And beginning the creation of the GCG, we saw an average of 45 GOCCs paying an average of 35.17 billion pesos from 2012 to 2020. As of December 2020, the 2020 dividends remitted by GOCCs under GCG amounted to 91.91 billion pesos. So GOCC remittances were high in 2020 to support the government's fund against the COVID-19 pandemic. This is just a chart to show the progression or the changes in dividend remittances from 2003 to 2020. We have also included the partial remittances for 2021. Regarding the performance report of the GCG for the end of 2020, so the percentage of GOCCs with improved corporate governance scorecard rating, we have accomplished 71%. The target is just to garner a 68% improvement, but we achieved 71%. And we were able to assess 100% of the GOCCs under GCG regarding their corporate governance scorecard. For the development of the CPCS, the target is to submit the complete compensation study to the President, and we were able to submit the memorandum for the information of the President on the compensation study on December 29, 2020. And for the percentage of qualified individuals as candidates for GOCC appointed director seats included in the talent pool, the target is 32%, but we only accomplished 12.89%. This performance indicator was greatly affected by the pandemic in 2020. For the percentage of GOCCs with performance scorecard achieving social impact, stakeholders, and financial targets, the target is to have a 10% improvement from 2019, and as of the end of 2020, we reported 0% improvement from 2019. This was also affected by the pandemic since the reported accomplishment is based on partial results only and still not comparable with the previous year's baseline. As of the time of reporting of this performance and indicator, the validation of GOCC's 2019 performance was still ongoing. So this resulted in a shorter lead time to validate all GOCC scorecards. For the proportion of GOCCs with identified competition issues recommended for action, as reported earlier, the GCG reviewed the GOCCs under its jurisdiction and determined that none had competitive neutrality issues. So this accomplishment was marked as 100%. For the percentage of GOCCs with complete documents that are rationalized or reorganized, this is also 100%. The action documents relative to the structuring of the BP Leasing Corporation were completed and submitted on November 2020. Lastly, for the percentage of GOCCs with substantial submission and subjected to performance target setting during the third quarter of the year, the GCG accomplished 100% out of the 80% target. As of the first semester this year, the first performance indicator was updated to become the GOCC sector average score in the corporate governance scorecard. So the target is 56%, and as of the first semester, this is still 0 since this is a year-end target, and the overall assessment will commence in October this year. The same as in the following performance indicator, the assessment of the corporate governance scorecard. With regard to the development of the new CPCS, the target is to submit the MFP and EO on the CPCS to the Office of the President by the first quarter. And as of the first quarter, we were only able to submit it up to the ex-officio members. But as reported, it was already submitted to the President last May. Regarding the percentage of talent pool included in the shortlist submitted to the President, the target is 34%, and as of the first semester, we are at 14.58%. But this is also a year-end target. Regarding the percentage of GOCCs with performance scorecard achieving social impact stakeholders and financial targets, as well as the other targets under in this slide, all of these are end-of-year targets. Save for the percentage of GOCCs with substantial submissions subjected to performance target setting, this will start this third quarter. So should be able to report accomplishments for this performance indicator. With regard to our budget utilization rate, so as of the end of December last year, our obligation rate is at 64.93% and the disbursement rate is at 92.85%. As of October this year, our obligation rate is at 54.86% and our disbursement rate is at 84.06%. The GCG strategic thrust for 2022 includes the implementation of the new CPCS of GOCCs, the enhancement and implementation of the ICRS, the institutionalization of the whistleblowing policy for the GOCC sector, the continuation and intensifying the implementation of the performance evaluation system, implementation of a standard methodology on customer satisfaction survey for GOCCs. We will also continue the studying GOCCs for this positive action, the implementation of a talent pool of qualified candidates for appointive director and CEO positions, the implementation of the corporate governance scorecard for GOCCs, the rationalization plans for the GOCC sector. We also intend to maintain our ISO 9000 certification, implement a competency framework model in GCG, and attain an acceptable level of budget utilization rate for maintenance and other operating expenses and capital outlay, and the accurate and timely submission of required documents to the COA, DBM, and other concerned agencies, enhancing the learning and development of our employees through internal and external trainings, and the regular monitoring of cash balances and timely review and processing of liquidation reports. For 2022, the General Appropriations Bill per allotment class, the agency-specific budget is at 195.296 million pesos. But if the automatic appropriation RLIP amounting to 8.708 million pesos is included, the total GCG budget is at 204.004 million pesos. Of this budget, 50% is for MOOE, 49% is for PS, and 1% for capital outlay. For the budgetary highlights in million pesos, we see a 9% increase for the personal services. The PS requirements for 2021 and 2022 are based on 78 and 84 filled positions respectively. So since there is an increase in PS, there's also an increase in the PS budget. So the total agency-specific budget increased by 6%, or the total GCG budget increased by 6%. For the MOOE, this includes continuing lease of additional office space, the enhancement of ICT services, infrastructure, and cybersecurity posture, establishment of ICT network infrastructure for extension office, office productivity, and the capacity building for GCG. Our capital outlay budget includes acquiring motor vehicles for 2021, but for 2022, this is for the purchase of office productivity equipment such as laptops. This was also requested from us by the Senate, so the comparison between our proposal to the DBM and the appropriations. So there's a 17.31% decrease from our proposal to the DBM. and a total of 36.31 decrease for the total GCG budget. So the projects slashed in the Tier 2 proposal are the enhancement of ICT services, establishment of ICT network infrastructure, automation of office processes, cost requirements for the 99 newly approved plantilla are already considered in the DBM's MPBF, and the retirement and life insurance premium. So just for reference, this is the personnel complement of GCG as of June 30, 2021. So we recently have 99 newly approved positions, and 85 are filled out of the 231 total approved positions. So the new positions or offices include the DAMO, or the Debt and Asset Management Office, and the Corporate Governance Offices A, B, and C, and the Corporate Standards Office. These two are our core offices, and also additional positions under support offices. That's it for our presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Benya, for that presentation. I have a few observations in the budget. Well, number one is the low obligation rate in 2020, and then the low utilization rate. What happened in 2020? How come there is low utilization rate?
Director JP Abisamis, can you answer that? Director JP,
Yes, Chairman. Can you hear me?
our head of
For
the
the
Finance and Administration Division.
for the low utilization rate last year, Mr. Chairman, Senator Gatchalian, the reason is number one is the pandemic. There were activities and programs of the Governance Commission that were not continued, and there were also activities under our ICT services, which because of the delayed approval of our ISSP. And the last reason would be the several failure of biddings that can be attributed to the pandemic also, Mr. Chair.
How much did we give to the TBM when we asked for the circular regarding remittance to DBM as to our budget, JP? Was it also affected our total budget last year?
Mr. Chairman, we returned a total of 36 million, no, pursuant to NBC 580. So we returned that
Okay. Based on DBM Budget Circular 580, the Governance Commission remitted to the DBM 36 million. And last year also, there was a delay in the procurement of IT services because the ISP was lately approved by the DICT. So it's really hard to procure. That is why we have a lot of projects that were not implemented. Can you continue, Director JP?
Yes, Mr. The total amount that we returned to DBM is 31,404,000. That is pursuant to there were, as I mentioned, there were programs and activities that were discontinued, such as the planning, validation, so travels to outside NCR to our GOCCs. These were discontinued, and office plannings and other activities in the internal processes of the GCG. The ISSP, Mr. Chair, these are our major projects. They were delayed in the procurement because of the ISSP was only approved
Approved June 9, 2020. So a lot of projects, and it's really hard for
October of last year.
yeah, really hard to procure when you need also to determine the market scan. Really hard to communicate with suppliers. That's why, because there was a directive from the COA not to pursue ICT projects without an approved ISP. That's why we follow that directive from the COA.
JP, please give us the breakdown of that unutilization because it's quite substantial. The obligation rate is only 64%. So the unobligated amount is about 73 million out of the 210. So what are these 73 million? What are the 73 million composed of?
First is the one that being transmitted to the DBM, 31 million. The other unimplemented projects are the data are all with Director Abisamis, but his connection is spotty. I'll try to look at my record.
Sa internet.
Okay, Director JP,
Sorry,
the 73,
my problem po sa
almost
connection.
36%
Hello, can you hear
unobligated.
me now?
Yes,
Sir?
yes. Yeah. Can you explain the 36% unobligated last year?
Okay. For one, there's the non-procurement of the motor vehicle amounting to 5.5 million. The APMV, or the Authority to Purchase Motor Vehicle, was only received first week of the month of January 2021. There were also trainings that were not conducted last year because of the pandemic, amounting to 2.7 million, the aggregate amount. And the lease of office space at around 2.4 million. The annual physical exam for our employees at 1.3, and the data privacy consultancy at 1 million. The ERP2 at 6 million, network infrastructure and security upgrade at 16.5 million, team collaboration at 2.5 million. So these are the major projects. So aside from those, from the regular activities and programs in GCG, yung validation po nga namin and internal plannings na hindi natuloy dahil sa pandemic.
Yung procurement ng
Pero
sasakyan,
kahit
January
na
na yata
po
na-approve.
mababa yung obligation rate ng GCG, we were able to hit our targets po, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Well, like for example, the procurement, this should not be delayed because these are just simple back activities.
For that, Mr. Chairman, I again reiterate that our IASP was approved by the DICT June 2020. So, as I said earlier, it was the policy now of COA not to procure ICT project without an approved ISP. So it's really hard for us to start, although the budget for 2020 started last March 2020. Again, the delay of 6 months of that approval from the DIEC took a hit in our procurement of our ICT projects.
Well, Attorney, the budget for 2020 was extended. No? So you can spend that unused amount of about 43 million for this year, just to flag the office. So in other words, you can spend the unspent amount up to end of this year.
Yes, We have now that project for especially the highest one, the high-end servers for our disaster recovery site. It's now already procured. In fact, it's already awarded. The ERP is also awarded. And other matters under our until December 2021 for the procurement. So I'm really on informing my team and properly monitoring this 37,950,000 procurement will be done before the expiration on December 31, 2020.
Right. So in other words, that 43 million will be spent within the year, Attorney.
Yes, trying to, despite the challenges for this year and this year.
Mr.
Can you
Chair,
confirm that, Director JP?
yes, we also returned an amount of 19 million doon sa continuing budget natin. Binalik natin sa DBM pursuant to NBC 586. Ito po yung mga hindi natuloy na projects from last year. And yung ibang activities and programs, continuing yung procurement and yung iba na award na po this year.
Let's run through the numbers, Director. So 73 ang unobligated. Minus 31, the one you returned to DBM. And then you're saying now is you also returned another 19. Is that correct?
That is correct, Mr. Senator, sir.
And then what is the 19? Why was it returned?
There was a circular from the DBM, National Budget Circular 586, to check activities and programs nung last year under sa continuing budget. So we recalibrated and check na yung amount ng 19 million, yung mga activities na naka-attach doon, Mr. Chair, is not anymore necessary kasi magdodoble na siya for 2021.
Okay. And then so minus ko lang 73 minus 31 minus 19 is 23. So that 23 you will spend within the year.
May mga ongoing procurement po from 2020 this year po.
Okay, but that can be spent.
Yes, Sir Senator.
Oh, because I want to know if that can be spent because that will also affect your 2022 budget.
Director
Pero
GP,
may
what
isa lang kami doon sa natira doon sa amount, Mr. Chair, na we cannot proceed with the procurement because we're still waiting for the APMB to be issued by the Office of the President. May SARO na po, but the APMB, wala pa po kami natatanggap from the Office of the President. So that's around 3.5 million.
Okay. Well, please submit to us na lang yung breakdown nitong 23 and the timetable so that we have on record, no? If I will be asked, I know exactly when the 23 million will be spent.
Okay, copy po. Will do. Thank you.
And then for August 2021, for the 2021 budget, as of August 31, 2021, you've only spent 54% of your budget. Will this improve towards the end of the year, Director?
Towards the end, yes, Mr. Senator, towards the end of the year, there are activities that are programs for procurement, such as the supply, delivery, installation, configuration, implementation of network infrastructure for GCG office. This is amounting 3.8 million. Yung waiting for authority to purchase motor vehicles for the 2021 at 2.4. We're still awaiting the APMB. The consultancy services for our ICT management system at 1 million. The survival kit at 930. Satisfaction survey and other programs under our MOE. Ito pong lahat na nabanggit, except dun sa passenger van, meron na pong purchase request and nasa back na po namin. And one thing po, Mr. Chair, is nabanggit po kanina, na-delay nga po yung procurement na namin dahil sa delay din yung approval ng ISSP for 2021 to 2023. Natanggap lang namin yung approval sometime June of this year. And although we conducted early procurement sa other programs namin, early procurement activities, nag-start po siya last year, meron pong several failure of biddings doon sa programs sa security, janitorial, photocopier. So ito po ay outside the control of the GCG. Kaya just recently lang din na-award ng commission sa mga suppliers. But we are
Well, Director,
that
before
the back and the commission will be able to obligate and spend the remaining amount towards the end of the year.
Well, before I continue, let me recognize the virtual presence of Senator Binay, who's here with us. Welcome, Senator Binay. Well, Director, again, give us a list of that remaining 96 million that should be spent for 2021. So in other words, you have to spend 96 million plus 23 million from your 2020 budget. But give me a list of that 96 million from your 2021 budget and a timetable, because we want to make sure. I want to make sure before I endorse your, or while debating your budget on the floor, that these amounts will be spent, towards the end. And you've already made the necessary actions to make sure that this remaining 96 million will be spent. So submit to us the breakdown, the timetable, and the road to 100% obligation rate.
Will do po, Mr. Chair.
Thank
you.
Thank you, Director. Well, I don't have any more questions to the budget, but I have I made our own analysis, Chairman, and like I said during my opening remarks, that I want to see particularly the performance of this GCG administration, and how well this GCG administration fared, compared to its predecessors, and probably a benchmark to move forward. So I want to share with you a table that we compiled. We isolated activities prior to 2016. So just to share with you this table, ito namin sa inyo po. So I wanted to know how many abolitions did your administration initiate? For me, personally, this is my personal measure. One of the things that I look at to measure GCG's performance is abolition. How many GOCCs have you abolished? So from 2016 till now, you've managed to abolish one, completely abolish, fully liquidated, one out of the 29. Approved, you managed to get the president approved, is 3 out of 29. And then recommended for approval is 4, out of the 4. So in other words, in your time in 2016, you have only abolished only one. And I want to be honest with the GCG that I was really hoping that you will abolish more. And what is important here is not only the recommendation, but also pushing for the abolition, because the recommendation is just paper. And it's important that we push for the liquidation and the complete abolition of the GOCC. So under your belt is only one. And then in terms of privatize, 0 for fully privatized. Then approved by the president for privatization is also 0. And then recommended to the president for privatization is 1 out of 6. And then in terms of merger is 1 out of 2. And then approved by the president is 1 out of 2. And then number of non-operational, inactive, deactivated GOCC is 25. So this is one of the items that I want to flag the commission that in terms of abolition, we only have one. So if you look at the graph comparing to the previous administration, no, and this is when GCG was created, 2011 to 2015. You can see that in your administration, compared to the past, the approved by president is quite the discrepancy is quite significant, no. But then again, my ultimate goal and my ultimate measure is the complete abolition. So that's one, Chairman, no, and I want to flag the commission because ultimately at the end of your term, a measure of success is how many dead woods or how many inefficient GOCCs have we abolished. And we also looked at the website of GCG and looked at and analyzed and looked at the different GOCCs. No, we painstakingly looked at the different GOCCs, and we found out there are still a lot of losing GOCCs, Chairman. Marami pang nalulugi. No, and we in fact identified 14 GOCCs that have been constantly losing money, no, and losing for the government. No, in fact, draining the government's precious resources. Some of the losing GOCCs, you have Alamana Islamic Bank, you have First Cavite Industrial Estate, you have GY Real Estate, you have Land Bank Countryside Development Foundation. Let me just go through it randomly. You have PNOC Renewables Corporation, you have Philippine National Railways Corporation, you have Philippine Pharma Procurement Incorporated. So if you look at all of this, these are all losing GOCCs. So my question, Chairman, is how come we are not abolishing all of these GOCCs? Because if we abolish all of these GOCCs, our estimate, table 9, our estimate, if you look at internal estimate ho to, no? And you can, again, this is open to the public to validate and also to counter. We will save approximately 8.6 billion pesos in terms of operational expenses. No? Yan po ang masisave natin. And in terms of subsidies, we can save approximately 7.3 billion pesos in terms of subsidies. This is the 14 na-identify ko kanina. So this is close to about 15 billion, no, in terms of operating expenses and subsidies, no, more or less.
Can I
So,
explain, sir?
Yes, in other words, Mr. Chairman, we still have a lot of things to do. No, we still have a lot of GOCCs to abolish and to save the people precious resources. So my question to you is, this is the end of, well, there's no term in your tenure, no, but I'm just saying, this is the end of this administration's term, and hopefully you can be extended. But if not, we will be stuck with 14 GOCCs that are constantly losing money. So what's your take on this, and how do we move forward with this losing GOCCs, Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Senator Nancy.
Hindi, siguro, pangdagdag lang ho dun sa tanong niya, Mr. Chairman. Baka meron naman dito sa 14 corporations na ito na nasa pipeline na kumbaga may pag-aaral na for its abolition or para ma-absorb ng isa pang corporation. Na hindi pa lang nasasubmit sa presidente.
Yes, Mr. Chairman and Madam Senator Nancy. As a context, we have coordination with NEDA regarding the targets for disposition of GOCCs, and this is a continuing study. And we have commitments to the NEDA what are the GOCCs subject for disposition. But in the list, one of the GOCCs there is already submitted in the Office of the President, the PNOC RC. The CIC, we are already conducting the proper disposition, but there are a lot of legal issues. But just recently, we asked for legal opinion for the DOJ how to go about how to dispose CIC, because CIC, based on the law, has 40% ownership of the private sector. So we are not really sure legally, because there are some mandates that once we abolish a GOCC, we are also in effect the non-enforcement of a validly approved law, the credit information. And as to the PPI, the Philippine Pharma, there is a pending bill of Senator Gordon regarding the expanding of Philippine Pharma regarding the strategic supply of in case of national emergency. That is a project, pending bill of Senator Gordon. And to expound on this matter, may I ask Director Johan Barcena regarding our commitments to PDP of the NEDA. Director Barcena, can you expound on this one?
Chairman, Commissioner,
Yeah.
explain to us that NEDA relationship or that NEDA move, because we want to know personally. No, I want to know exactly if you have recommended the abolition or privatization or merger. Then at what stage are we in already? No, because what we want is to see concrete actions, no? Because I mentioned earlier that under your administration there was only one abolition.
Yeah.
So at least before the end of third term, things are already moving, and we can see some concrete actions moving forward.
Director Barcena, can you share to the...
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, just for
Yes.
clarification, kasi pag sinabi bang abolish, ibig sabihin ba nito, wala, as in sarado na yung kumpanya, or on paper lang yung abolition?
That's really a very hard thing, ma'am, because when I inherited that GCG, there is no assets at disposition division, which is under our law created. That's why with all those abolished GOCCs in the previous administration, until now, only an ad hoc group under GCG handling all this disposition of these GOCCs. Just recently, I fight it for that last 2 years to have a specific division under GCG to look in all of these abolish and privatize GOCCs for liquidation. So hopefully...
So Chairman, technically parang paper abolition lang to.
Not really. We just ask the liquidation process is still, some have not yet submitted, some are under process, because much of the abolition in the previous administration is the primary responsibility is given to the respective department, just like the LRC. It is with DOST.
For example, itong FIVIDEC, di ba? Ano na siya, for abolition, it was abolished, yung FIVIDEC, So, ibig sabihin ho ba nito, wala nang empleyado tong FIVIDEC? Or they were absorbed by another agency?
parang wala na yatang tao dyan. Except yung Panay Railways. That's Panay Railways really in Panay. Panay.
Okay.
Panay
Siguro, Mr. Chairman, baka pwede for submission na lang kung dun sa listahan ng mga abolished corporation, kung ilan dito yung talagang wala ng not renting an office space, no employees hired, or as of now, paper abolition pa lang yung nangyayari. Yun lang po, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah,
Actually-
Senator Binay, going with your questions, I would like to flash in the slide, and this is in line with Senator Binay's questioning. No, so there are about 3 GOCCs that were approved for abolition, and there are 4 recommended for abolition. The question here is, from the recommended abolition, i-approve pa yan ni Presidente, di ba? And pag na-approve na ni Presidente, how long will it take for that GOCCs to be abolished? No, may time lag yan, and I've seen some data, but I want to know exactly, Chairman, from your recommendation, kasi nag-recommend kayo ng 4 dito we will
Yes.
save about 1.4 billion. And then may na-approve na, no? Na 3. So we will save about 500 million. But from the time it is abolished, as what Senator Binay was asking, how long is that, no? That time frame?
Okay. Actually, most of these abolition are given to the respective department. So it's just in coordination with GCG. So if that department will not properly act of that order of abolition, again, the GCG hands is tied. That is why my action right now is to have an designated board for that GOCC to properly craft the proper liquidation plan and winding up process. So what we are doing now is to ask for the Office of the President to approve designated directors for that GOCC from the same personnel with the director level position to be the liquidation board for these GOCCs. So that is an ongoing process. They are already designated directors for the GOCCs to properly craft the liquidation plan for these GOCCs. So that's a reason why, again, my hands are tied, because when I have this commission, there is no designated division handling asset management, abolition, liquidation for GOCC. Hopefully, this year we could hire, because it was just approved last February, and there's a problem as to the approval of QS with civil service, and when we process for the application for that new position, it takes time. So hopefully, when I lead this GOCC, the next commission will have the proper tool and division to handle all this disposition, liquidation of GOCCs. Mahirap kasi ad hoc lang, may other responsibilities yung people working this abolition in coordination with the proper department handling the liquidation of GOCCs.
Well, my question, Chairman, Commissioner, from the time you recommend and from the time the President approves, how long does that take, typically? Typically, more or less.
Hopefully, based on the private sector, supposedly there's a winding up period of 3 years. But,
3 years.
Yes, that is the principle under the private sector. After that, although that corporation is being dissolved, there is still residual powers for purposes of continuing the liquidation. So we are applying that principle. We got legal opinion from the SEC to continue the liquidation process because there are still residual powers for the abolished GOCCs to continue the liquidation. That is why we are asking, we're getting recommendations from that department to designate their people to be the directors for that GOCC to complete the liquidation process of a particular abolished GOCC.
The Chairman, let me just reiterate my question. No? From the time you recommend, and then from the time the President approves, it takes 3 years for
That is
the
the
President to approve.
winding up period, supposedly.
No. Just the approval lang for abolition because you recommend to the President, diba? You recommend to the President for abolition.
Yes.
From the time you recommend and from the time he approves, how long does it take? More or less.
Based on our experience, it takes about 2 years.
About 2 years. And
And
from the time the President approves and from the time it gets fully liquidated, how long does it take? More or less lang para to give us a sense of this process.
if we base on the private sector, it should be 3 years because that is a winding
No.
up period for a dissolved
Yeah,
GOCC
but here
corporation.
but here in your experience here in the government, how long does it take? From the time the President approves, and from the time it's fully liquidated, how long is that?
Can I ask Attorney Mike Balmoria, or he is the one in charge of the liquidation based on record. Attorney Balmoria, can you expound on this matter? Attorney Mike Balmoria.
Based po sa experience ko po, ma'am, no, sir, wala po siya actually hard and fast rule. Magdedepende po siya sa complexity ng GOCC. For instance po, may ilang GOCC na malalaki yung assets. So yun, it would take time to dispose those po na records, bali nadat na namin na kunyari po, lalo na po yung mga assets na mga GOCCs na involved dun sa mga scandals, mga scam. So ang tendency po, we have a hard time looking for the people concerned, yung mga involved doon, pati po yung documents, so that would add to the time na ma-complete yung liquidation. Minsan naman po ang nangyayari, yung board mismo recalcitrant or hindi na po namin nahihirapan po kaming maghanap ng office nila. So those are one of the factors po na would complicate the process. Pero in a perfect world po, it would more or less siguro safe na po yung 2 to 3 years. Pero that's
In
up to
addition
the
to
point
that,
siguro po na approve na po yung liquidation plan. Iba pa po yung stage na yung mismong pag-implement niya, that's the disposition of the assets, the settlement of the liabilities, and the separation of the necessary personnel po. Thank you.
in addition to that, Mr. Chairman, our hands is really tied because there are COA rules for especially when that GOCC has a lot of liabilities, and also there are things to be subject for cases. So it's not really the total control of GCG regarding this one. But as a start, really, when this division of GCG will fully be operational, at least GCG will have upper hand in properly handling all those abolished GOCCs which were done in the previous administration. Marami po doon may mga kaso sa PIDAP, yung subject sa mga scandals, wala sa mga records. Yun nga ang problema namin. And we have to reconsult and properly coordinate to the designated department handling the liquidation of that GOCC. We only submitted to you the status of all GOCCs based on our submission to the Senate. And we are continuing really despite our major resources and people. So it's really, I accept it's really a hard thing really. And hopefully we are doing something to have a dedicated division for this matter.
Well, I'll show a slide, Chairman, and this is what we gathered, no? So basically, there are 29 approved GOCCs for abolition, of which only 2, no, were completely abolished. No, one under your administration, and then one during the past administration. The 27 are ongoing since 2011. And this is where Senator Binay is harping at, no? Because this 27 is, kumbaga, hanging eh. Now, when do we see the light of day that this will be completely abolished? No? And I know that some of these 27 are still operating. Tama po ba, Chairman? They're still operating, maybe not on a full scale, but they're still operating. So what we want is to see the true essence of abolishing, no? No, talagang matanggal na, because that will save government a lot of resources.
Actually, most of the ODUs are no longer functioning because they already received the separation incentive for their separation. So it's just really the management of properties, liabilities that being undertaken. But as to personnel, really, it's with the respective department handling this the function of their duties, but they're no longer performing their mandate. But we'll try to give the situation regarding all these GOCCs, because we're always in touch with them. We're sending letters, their comment, and we include the concerns of this committee regarding those issues.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Senator Binay.
Siguro, another concern is habang pinoproseso yung abolition and liquidation, I would assume na itong mga corporation na to, may mga assets na habang tumatagal, nagdi-depreciate. Tama po ba, Chairman?
Yes, ma'am. There are assets that are physical assets. But as to real property, meron din.
Yun na nga ho. So Chairman Dagpin, may mga assets sila na imbis na mas malaki pa yung value na makukuha ng government dun sa pag-dispose, pwedeng bandang dulo halos wala na din. Dahil sa sobrang tagal ng liquidation.
Actually, some already turned over to the PMO. The PMO of the DOF will, and also there's really a problem. Really is no records available of that of some of these assets, and also it's really hard to value. That is why when this GCG was created, there are a lot of abolition and supposedly hand-to-hand itong proper person to handle this one. Yun nga, a stopgap measure, lahat ng mga abolition order, gilagyan nga ng the responsible agency is the department. Sabi ko nga, yung human settlement, it's under the Department of Agriculture. They're handling all the asset of that human settlement GOCC. So it's with the DA, the TALRC, the DOST, and other. That's the talk being undertaken during the last administration. So for us, we're just coordinating with that department how they handle the liquidation. Palit din ng pagpalit sa 2016. I don't know how the turnover from the previous administration of that department to the next administration. So it's really the transition stage how this will be being done. So hopefully this will be addressed with the proper division. I'm this being the person approved in this agency. It will populated with the proper person to have a look on all these matters. And admittedly, yun na talaga ang nangyari. But I suppose with all the physical assets which are land and building is still intact. But as to the physical assets like machines, maybe it's deteriorated. And COA has the record also of these properties, because until now, COA has all the records regarding the properties, assets of all these abolished GOCCs. And we are in full coordination also with COA regarding these matters.
Chairman, to be honest about it, and with all due respect, no, ako personally, I see this GCG administration can do much more. No, I can see that that you can initiate more reforms to hasten the process. Looking at the numbers, to be honest about it, I'm not so satisfied, no, with the performance of this current administration, because there's only one that was abolished. But I think what you can do and your team can do is propose legislative action or legislative or propose policy or some legislative measures to improve the process. I can see that you are frustrated when it comes to the liquidation and it comes to the winding down. Then maybe that is something that we should look at through law. It's already been 10 years since the GCG was created. It's about time to review that law and see what is lacking and see what needs to be improved. Even in budget, when you, if you propose that we should add more funds to create offices, such as the Asset Disposal Office, we can help you. Senator Binay and I can help you through special provisions or insertions in the law to improve your operations. So two things, Chairman. Number one is suggest to us what legislative measures that you see that is needed to improve the pace in which GCG can liquidate assets, and other things also, so that GCG will be empowered to push. Because from what I'm seeing, na-abolish nga in 29, but there are only 2 that were completely liquidated. The 27 are still floating. So definitely there's something wrong with that. No? And with your experience here since 2016, I'm very sure that you can suggest to us what needs to be done through law so that we can improve the pace of the operations.
Okay. We will do that, Mr. Chair. And to add that matter, I may ask Director Johan Barcena to make a recommendation and discuss also our coordination with the PDP regarding disposition of GOCCs. Director Barcena, can you say something?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Sir Senator, Senators Binay and Gatchalian. So, as you might well know, the Philippine Development Plan for 2017 and to 2022 included a new chapter on a national competition policy. So the lead agency there is the Philippine Competition Commission, but the Governance Commission for GOCCs is likewise part of the chapter. And part of our mandate under the chapter is to conduct a subsidiarity analysis of the GOCC sector. So essentially, it's for the determination of what GOCCs should be retained by the government as market participants and what GOCC should be divested by the government. And the government should just be an enabler within the environment of the industry in which the GOCC operates. So the Commission has already approved a dispositive action plan, which is the framework by which we will look into the GOCCs and determine which GOCCs may be recommended for abolition, which GOCCs may be recommended for privatization, and for the GOCCs that will be retained, what analysis may be done on them so as to promote further competitive neutrality with respect to the industries in which these GOCCs operate. So that is the GCG's commitment under the Philippine Development Plan. So as to some of the GOCCs that were listed by the good senator earlier, so among them have already been marked for this positive action and have already been recommended for this positive action to the Office of the President. So that includes Philippine National PNOC Renewables Corporation, as well as the Northern Foods Corporation, among others.
Well, like I said, no, I'm also grading GCG, just like what you are doing with the GOCCs with your performance evaluation system. I'm also doing the same on GCG, and so far I'm not satisfied with the numbers that I'm seeing. No, that's why moving forward, please suggest to us what needs to be done. No, baka if we don't improve things and we don't improve the pace, baka ma-abolish GCG ang ma-abolish. No, hindi na yung mga GOCC. So and ako I can see some importance in the role of GCG because GCG is like the police of all GOCCs. And if I'm the president, GCG is my go-to guy insofar as disciplining the GOCCs. But we need to move faster. No? And if you see deficiencies in the law, we're open in looking at the law itself. No? After 10 years, kailangan naman talaga after 10 years, a review of the law should be conducted. No?
That part, Honorable Chairman, we already have a review of our law. In fact, what really hampers this agency is the turnover in people, because we're the only highly mandated GOCC which is not salary exempt. That's why we are practically being pirated by BSP, by the Philippine Competition Commission, and other agencies, because of despite the tasks being done and capacitating people, after that they're just being hired by other government agencies which are salary exempt. But on the part of policy, we already have a proposal studied for the past 3 years, and one of the senators, I think it's the office of Senator Pacquiao, requesting for our proposed amendment of the GCG law. I promise also to give you a copy of that proposal to amend the GCG law. And for the record also, last July 2021, there is already a decision of the Supreme Court declaring the constitutionality of the GCG as a law and all its procedures based on that Republic Act 10149. Because for the past 7 years or 8 years, we are really on suspended animation, whether this Republic Act 1049 is constitutional, although it's presumed constitutional, but just recently, last July 2021, it was declared constitutional by the Supreme Court.
Chairman, it's no secret that some legislators, some GOCCs themselves don't see the benefit of having a GCG. You know that, no?
Yes,
There are a
yes.
lot of talks about abolishing GCG itself. And there are a lot of legislators who don't see the benefit of having another layer. No, some quarters are looking at GCG as another layer of bureaucracy. In fact, the amounts of report that you require the GOCCs are quite tremendous, to be honest about it. I saw the reports. And some of those reports are not viewed beneficial, no, by the GOCCs themselves. No, they think this is just an added layer or added work to them. So what I'm driving at is, like, we have to make our office more felt and more relevant. For me, after hearing this, your budget for the last 3 years, I can see the benefit, because regulating 121 GOCC is not easy. And we all know that within that GOCC, there are a lot of vested interest and conflict of interest happening. And that's what GCG is there for, to make sure that conflict of interest and self-interest will not prevail in the management of the GOCCs. But again, no, we need to work faster. We need to be more aggressive. And if need be, we need to amend the law, no, so that it will strengthen instead of weaken the GCG. Director, are you raising your hand?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. If I can just highlight at least, we will very much welcome the offer of the good senator to fully support the immediate operationalization of our dispossession office, as to provide better perspective. While the numbers present there are around 29 GOCCs that are ongoing liquidation, it would be better to see it from the perspective of the number of assets that all these 29 GOCCs have that are for dispossession, because these individual assets need to be individually disposed under the rules of the Commission on Audit on Public Auction of Properties before an individual GOCC may be considered to be fully abolished or liquidated. So as mentioned by Attorney Kyle earlier, one of these GOCCs is the Technology Resource Center, which alone has literally hundreds of properties that need to be disposed before it can be considered fully abolished. So the good senators offer to fully operationalize our dispossession management office is very much welcome and appreciated.
Well, we'll consult with our budget office, but that's a remedy that I am seeing, to operationalize it through the GAA. Because, to be honest, I remember this is also an issue last time, no, in 2020 budget hearing. So once and for all, we have to put a solution to this. And the solution that I'm looking at is to operationalize it through the GAA, no, through a special provision or through an insertion, just to get things going. Or else, this is a recurring problem every year, and this will not end. So with that, Chairman, before I move on to another topic, just submit to us, not this time, no, later on, your legislative proposals on how to strengthen GCG. I'm willing to sponsor that. I'm willing to look at that, and a probably a in-depth analysis on the law itself. No, what's lacking, what needs to be clarified, how to empower GCG in the liquidation process. So all of those, just submit to us an outline in the beginning, and later on a comprehensive study on how to improve the law.
Thank you, Your Honor. We will do that.
I'll go to specifics, Chairman, no, because this is important and timely right now. No, I'm looking at several, because earlier I flashed in the screen. No, one of the bleeding GOCCs is a GOCC called Philippine Pharma Procurement Inc., which I understand is a subsidiary of PITC, no? If I'm not mistaken. And we looked at PITC, and to be honest, to my surprise, PITC ranked quite well, no, in terms of the performance standards, no, the PES, or the performance evaluating system. So we looked at the PES of PITC, and you can see, from 27, which is 45%, 2018 is about 76%, and 2019 is about 82%, or 8 points shy from reaching 90. And when you reach 90, you get a bonus. No, you get the performance-based bonus. No, so konti na lang magkaka-bonus na siya. But we all know PITC is a very controversial GOCC right now. In fact, a cursory look at different at the COA report of different offices. Now, we looked at the COA report of different offices. PITC's name always crops up because it became the parking lot of funds for different agencies. Now, for example, in the NBI, it allocated 103 million pesos, but only 7 million pesos was spent out of that 103 for a clearance processing system. IT ho to eh. The Philippine Air Force, they allocated 736 million pesos, but nothing has been delivered to the PAF, to the Philippine Air Force. And then to DNR, the Environmental Management Bureau, the same, 400 million pesos, but nothing has been allocated. And in fact, the funny part is, the simple supplies such as office supplies, airline tickets, equipment were all outsourced to the PITC. Now, what's another alarming report from COA is the 3 billion allocated by the BFP, the Bureau of Fire, to PITC, for the purchase of firefighting equipment, construction of fire stations, and these were all unliquidated. My question, Chairman, is despite getting a high performance evaluation score, but if you look at all of these controversies, this is from COA, not from us. Seems to me that they're not even close of getting a high grade. So I want to be enlightened. How come under the GCG system they're getting high grades, but under the COA report they're all a lot of controversies and a lot of unspent funds and unliquidated funds. So I want to be enlightened with that, Chairman.
Okay, as start, Mr. Chair, the performance evaluation system of the GCG is composed of 5 parts. So regarding this one, it's just one of the components of the PES, which is good governance condition. That is settlement of issues of audit observation of the Commission on Audit. So this is just part of the performance evaluation scorecard. And may I ask Director Jack Fonseca regarding these issues as to the best of PITC and regarding the compliance of audit observation of the PITC. Director Jack? Director Jack Fonseca?
Chairman, yes po, Chairman. Good afternoon po. Good afternoon, Senator. For the PITC po, as explained by by Chairman Dagpin, yung pong aming performance scorecard is composed of different perspectives po to provide a good balance po dun sa overall operations of a GOCC. For PITC specifically po, when we look at PITC, we do not look at PITC as a procurement entity. So the scorecard of PITC yung procurement activity niya po, iisa lang po yon na measure sa kanyang scorecard because we look at PITC as a trading industry which serves as a link between the buyers and suppliers, international and domestic buyers and suppliers. That's the primary mandate of PITC po. Yung pong procurement po na ginagawa nila, it's just but a little part and parcel po of their trading in business. So po yung pong buong performance scorecard niya po, hindi lang po siya naha-highlight sa procurement activity. In fact po, when we look at the 2019 performance scorecard po of PITC, nasa revenue lang po yung minimeasure na procurement activity because since we started the performance evaluation system in 2013, we wanted to push PITC to go back to its original, to focus more on its core business, core mandate, which is the trading industry, linking buyers and suppliers po. In terms po dun sa observation po ni COA for 2020 based on the report submitted to us by PITC as of September 21 po, yung balance of 11 billion na nakadeposit po sa kanila as of 2020. Bulk of it po ay naibalik na po nila sa treasury or binalik po nila dun sa mga entities po, national government entities na nakipag-contract po sa kanila. Ang balance po as of August 31 is around 3 billion and ang naging agreement po with the government agencies na transfer po sa kanila ng pera, they should secure certification from the DBM that they may continue to use the funds for the purpose for which they are appropriated and submit the same to PITC on or before September 30, 2021. Otherwise po, kung hindi po makareceive si PITC ng certification, i-return po nila yung funds to the Bureau of Treasury.
But my question is, well, the basic question is it part of their mandate to become the procurement agent of different government agencies? Pati pagkagawa ng...
Will answer that, sir. The original
I mean-
law of PITC really is for international trading, for trading not usually conducted by the private sector. So the procurement was really provided there when there was an executive order sometime in 1987 that they could also do procurement, both foreign and domestic. So that is why when GCG was created, we're trying to imbibe to them that your primary mandate really is international trading, not procurement. So that is why we are challenging them that your procurement undertaking is not your core mandate, but again, for them to have income and dividends, they do it through procurement with government agencies. That is why they try to. There was really facility for those government agencies whose budget for procurement might expire. They transfer that to PITC despite no terms of reference. That is stated in the various reports of the COA. So when the Senate investigation regarding this matter was undertaken, we participated in that, and I think the PITC positively also do their thing, and as what explained by Director Jack, we can no longer retain that money without the proper DBM certification, and for those they could not undertake, and it should be transferred back to the National Treasury, including the interest of those park budget under PITC.
But Chairman, clearly by the name itself, it should be conducting international trading, not building fire stations,
Yes.
buying office supplies, buying airline tickets. This is clearly out of their mandate. And being a GOCC, my point here is GCG um, should have been should have warned PITC that it is going beyond its mandate instead of giving it a substantially high grade. No? Because kung titignan lang natin yung grade, sa unang tingin, looks like they're doing well. But we had to go through the different COA reports and we saw glaring comments by COA. And that should not be the case. If GCG have flagged them long before that you are not within your mandate.
Mr. Chairman,
regarding
siguro,
that-
Mr. Chairman, siguro just to add lang
Yes.
dun sa observation niya, Mr. Chairman. I think pag tinignan mo naman talaga yung financial statements nung PITC, maganda talaga kasi isipin mo kumikita sila ng 4% dun sa mga nilipat na pera sa kanila. So kung titignan mo yung balance sheet nila, maganda, I mean financially ang laki ng income nila. Kaya siguro isa din yun sa naging factor kung bakit maganda yung reviews ng GCG sa PITC.
Okay. Actually, it's not really, again, they're not really happy with our PES because for under my helm of the GCG, they never received the performance-based bonus. That is why they are trying to comply year to year yung mga deficiencies na other factors under the PES. Sabi ko nga, yung PES kasi it's under the process there. There are 5 levels of how to comply, and on respective levels, there are targets to be complied as to finances, source of income, increase of dividend. Meron dyan lahat na, so sabi ko nga, yung COA report is just part and parcel of PES, which are good governance condition. In fact, if they could not comply that, the EOTF also will not issue a certification. Again, despite the past 90% of their PES, if the interagency will not give certification that they have complied with all those audit observation, notice of disallowance, still they cannot receive the performance-based bonus.
Or siguro, Mr. Chairman, just to add, the mere fact that they're not already functioning yung core yung core na trabaho nila, hindi ba dapat ni-reprimand nyo na sila to begin with? Na that is not your function? Or pagdating sa powers nyo, medyo hindi ganon kalakas for you to reprimand a certain GOCC for going against what is their core function?
Okay, may I ask Director Jack what happened in our technical panel meeting with PITC? Director Jack?
Yes, Chairman. To explain po, when we started yung pong performance evaluation in 2013, we've been telling PITC po that we will highlight dun po sa kanilang performance scorecard kung ano po yung core mandate. So yung pong annual validations po, while it seems na okay po yung labas nung mga scores nila because they've been performing, yun nakakapasa. Hindi po sila nakakapasa pero hindi din po sila nazi-zero. But the mere fact po that they never achieve 90%, once lang po nila na-achieve yun. It's yun po yung ginagawa po ng GCG to push further po yung PITC to perform po yung mandate po nila, yung core process po nila. And we pushed for the reorganization po of PITC sometime in 2016. But unfortunately po, naabutan po siya ng transition, and then yung pong current administration po ng PITC did not pursue po yung reorganization po ng PITC. But during that time po, we were looking at the reorganization of PITC to to properly align them po and bring them back to their core mandate.
Yes, Senator
Yes,
Binay.
kasi di ba ngayon sa Senate, there's pending bills to abolish PITC. Napag-aralan nyo na ba ito sa GCG? Na on your own. Kasi you have the power to abolish. Hindi naman talaga kailangan ng batas to do it. On your own, you can do that. You have that power to abolish GOCCs.
It's
Yes,
a
Chairman,
continuing
go ahead.
really, it's a really a continuing evaluation because based on Section 5 of 105, 1100149, one of the mandates there, if they decide the performance as to the desired result for that GOCC. That's why it's really not automatic na i-abolish mo siya kasi you give also credits na they are trying to perform their mandate. But again, na-highlight din kasi itong procurement.
And siguro,
again, yes.
Siguro, Chairman Dagpin, when was the last time that PITC performed its core function as a trading company for international procurement?
Okay.
Chair, may I answer po?
Yes, Director Jack.
Senator Binay, PITC po never ceased operating as international trading company. It still does po. They facilitate po yung business and linking po ng suppliers and buyers po, domestic and international. However po, in terms of size ng business at revenue-wise po, income-wise, mas malaki po talaga yung kinikita nila coming from the procurement activities. Pero nagpo-perform po sila po nila na kung ano po yung nakalagay sa batas po nila.
Hindi nga. So, dapat meron silang listahan na napasok nilang negosyo. Tama, parang ganun ba yung...
Yes po, meron po.
Okay, can you submit that
Yes
to the
po,
committee?
Senator.
And hindi ba yung ganyang function can already be served by DTI?
Yes, they're under supervision under the DTI. The supervising agency for PITC is the DTI.
Yun na nga ho, Chairman Dagpin and Senator Sherwin, parang ang layo nung trabaho nila dapat dun sa ginagawa nila ngayon. Isipin mo, dapat ang trabaho lang nila is to serve as a, technically nga ang trabaho nila is to, parang marketing lang sila eh. 'Di ba? Tapos ngayon naging procurement sila na I don't know kung meron silang department dun sa ahensya na yon that can, that has that competence to procure big ticket items.
To be frank, Madam Senator, really is the pressure how to increase dividends. That is why they see the procurement as a source of dividend of PITC. But again,
pero Chairman Dagpin, how would you quantify yung pagpasok nila ng mga negosyo dito?
Kasi
na magiging bahagi siya nung performance evaluation niya. Ano ba yun? Kunyari, nakapasok sila ng worth, kunyari, $50 million na company na magsiset up dito sa Philippines. Yun ba yung magiging, how will they earn from that? Do they get a percentage of, kunyari, X amount na papasok sa Philippines?
Parang ganyan siya, ma'am. Pero based on records sa GCG, since the start of GCG, PITC is a losing GOCC. Director Jack, can you expound this one? Until it's a losing GOCC, until the focus also through procurement. Director Jack, yung financial
Yes, Chairman.
Financial ng PITC.
Chairman Dagpin, that is not their function, diba? Kahit anong tignan natin, diba? Parang dun sa, based on its description, parang hindi dahilan na para gumanda yung financial position nila magdadagdag sila dun sa trabaho na hindi naman nila trabaho to begin with. Kasi that is not their core competence. Procurement is not their core competence.
That is really our what will be always discussed in our technical panel meeting, Madam Senator. We are also posing, if we check their performance evaluation scorecard, there is a measure there how they will improve their international trading. Director Jack can expound more on this one. Director Jack, that measure as to international trading.
Pero siguro, Chairman, moving forward, pinapayagan niyo pa rin ba na mag-procure ang PITC?
Again, it does really the survival of PITC. If they will not do that, I don't think they could finance their operation.
Hindi, pero parang sa akin kasi, Chairman, dagpin yung survival nila. Hindi nila dapat call yun eh. Kasi that is not in their mandate, di ba? Which I think, dun ma-highlight yung importance ng GCG para i-evaluate talaga na sandali, itong GOCC na to, hindi na niya talaga kayang i-perform yung function niya. So baka it's better na either it gets absorbed or baka there's a need na ano na talaga, baguhin na, gawin na talaga siyang procurement arm at hindi lang taga-provide ng linkage. Kasi nga, di ba, for as long as it's functioning as a procurement corporation, it is going against its original intent as a corporation.
With that, Madam Senator, I think there's really a move now to have one entity for government procurement. Hopefully, if there is that one, I will definitely push for the abolition of PITC because it no longer perform their duty.
Chairman Dagpin parang ang nagiging problema ko lang is parang hindi niya nakikita na mali yung ginagawa nung PITC. Kasi the mere fact na sinasabi niya na kailangan nilang gawin yan kasi for their survival. Kahit hindi naman yun yung core competence ng corporation. So parang doon ako parang nababother Chairman Dagpin kasi in a way parang you're tolerating yung maling ginagawa ng corporation just for them to get revenue.
I take that advice, ma'am, but again, the way their performance is being scored, that is why they cannot really pass the 90% grade because they are not performing their core function. That is why we always challenge them as to conduct international trading as a measure to perform their core mandate. So makita naman yan sa scorecard ng PITC if you have to review that scorecard. It's not part and parcel lang yung procurement. It's not really tolerating. It just show their income coming from there.
Chairman Dagpin, do they get percentage sa dividends?
The dividend is the net income. 50% will go to the national government and 50% they will retain as retained earnings of the GOCC.
And yung pwede ho ba makakuha yung board or yung mga empleyado dun sa remaining 50% na retained earnings?
If they could get the 90% grade of the PES, the employees could have the performance-based bonus. And if there is a performance-based PES rating that past 90%, again, that's also a measure for the board to get also the performance-based incentive for the board.
So kung wala hong ganon, there's no way for them to get, kumbaga, magbe-benefit sila dun sa retained earnings na nakukuha nila.
Yes, Madam Senator.
Like, kunyari, mga other allowances.
Yes.
So, kunyari, mga representation allowance, hindi nila pwede mabawi doon?
Mandated ng law, yung rata. As to, they have also 13-month pay, major bonus that is mandated by law, but as to performance-based bonus, it is based on the scorecard, the performance evaluation. Both as to the employees for PBB and for the directors for the PBI. So based on our record for the past 10 years, we only passed in 2013 and 2015 under my helm as GCG chairman. They never got 90%.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Nancy. Senator Nancy, that's also my concern, Chairman, to be honest, that they're getting high scores, almost 82%, only 8% shy of getting 90, and then you will get your bonus. But then again, I'm reading the mandate of PITC, a cursory reading of the mandate. I don't see anywhere there that they can be the procurement agency of government. It's all of those functions and powers are in the context of international trading, not in the context of procurement for government or procuring for government. That's why that big net income and big revenue is actually is a transfer from one pocket to the other. No, it's not. They didn't create any trading. They created an illusion that they are trading, but it's really the funds of other agencies transferred to them. So my number one, my concern is they are outside of their mandate, and because of that, they cannot be given a high score because you're not performing your mandate. That's number one. And then number two, the COA reports are glaring. Now, these are not simple 1 million, 2 million unliquidated amount. In the case of BFP, that's 3.7 billion unliquidated funds. So my point there, Mr. Chairman, and my suggestion is to look at the PES system. Because the PES system is a good system, I admit. I've seen it. It's a good system. However, it can be improved, no, to reflect the true performance or the lack of it of a GOCC, so that they cannot hide and use the PES as their justification to exist. Because that's parang yan ang lumalabas. If you look at the PES, that, oh, mataas ang aking PES. But that's not the case because they're remiss in their core mandate. And again, no, what they're doing now, it's not in the law. And at the same time, they're riddled with COA findings, not to a tune of 1 or 2 million, but a tune of billions. No? So my suggestion is to look at the PS report. And I'll go to the PS report in depth later on. But I really see some in fact, I'm not the only one who observed that, no? But Secretary Dominguez also observed that. I read in one of the news report. He said that there's incongruence between the PES and the actual GOCC, no? So here, I came across this article, and it's not only me, no, but also fellow executive officers also see this incongruence. So we need to address this, Chairman, and we need to make sure that the PS is reflective of the true state and the true performance or the lack of it of the GOCC.
Mr. Chair, we already submitted our stand regarding that one, and we're making some adjustment regarding that one because prior to the conduct of evaluation also with the IC, we have no really IC is not under GCG, but if it serves me right, I went to the IC sometime in 2018 regarding technical assistance from them. But again, after so many meetings, we have to first to do that MOA, but yung nalibutan na ng pandemic. But prior to that, we have already plans to evaluate based on a standard accounting system. And I may ask Director Johan the way forward of the GCG regarding the performance evaluation of insurance GOCCs, because we are already with some measures to be undertaken. Director Johan? Director Johan?
Yes, sir. Regard to provide some context on the statement of Secretary Dominguez, the incongruence being identified was the findings of the Insurance Commission with respect to the insurance corporations of the government, specifically PCIC and PhilHealth, based on an operational review undertaken by the IC. So one of the primary findings of the Insurance Commission essentially is the non-compliance by these state insurance companies with the Philippine Financial Reporting Standards, specifically PFRS 4, which relates to insurance accounting and insurance contracts, which is being used by their counterparts in the private sector. So with respect to the relationship between the performance evaluation system and the findings of the Insurance Commission, we highlighted the specific aspect of compliance with the applicable financial reporting framework is actually within the mandate of the Commission on Audit. And we cannot essentially tell a GOCC that it's compliant or non-compliant with respect to the PFRS because that would be encroaching upon the jurisdiction of the Commission on Audit. But nevertheless, taking cue from the statements of Secretary Dominguez, we made coordinations with the Commission on Audit on how we can best move forward with the non-compliance of the GOCCs to the applicable financial reporting framework and how we can integrate it into our performance evaluation system. And based on our coordination with the Commission on Audit, we were able to address this by the recent issuance of a memorandum circular, which includes as a good governance condition before a GOCC can receive their performance-based bonus, full compliance with the applicable financial reporting framework as determined by the Commission on Audit. So moving forward, Mr. Chairman, the GOCCs, at least with respect to their compliance with the Philippine Financial Reporting Standards, more particularly those insurance companies of the government, would have to fully comply with the PIFRS standards so that the findings of the Insurance Commission, the Commission on Audit, and the GCG can align with respect to this particular aspect of GOCC operations. And also, we have committed to the Secretary of Finance that on top of the representatives from the supervising agency, the Department of Budget and Management, the Department of Finance, we will also be inviting the Insurance Commission when we meet with the state insurance companies to set their performance targets beginning 2022.
Director, I'm not only talking about the financial institutions, but in particular PITC earlier. No, we drilled down the issues surrounding PITC, and Senator Binay harped on the mandate of PITC, which is what I am gathering also from a cursory review of their charter. The charter talks about international trading. You know, that's the context, and that's the overall goal. I've not seen in their powers and functions anything that has something to do with government procurement. But I demonstrated earlier to all of you that what they're doing right now, and I think no, and probably the bulk of their profit comes from government procurement, which is contrary to international trading. So, and that's not reflected in the PES. So I can see also a incongruence between the PES and the issues surrounding PITC. That's what I'm driving at. And I don't have any solution right now, but I want you to look at that also, because we cannot let those GOCCs stretch their mandate for purposes of survival, because that's not their responsibility. If you are supposed to be abolished, then you cannot stretch your mandate so that you will we will let you go, because that's not supposed to be. And what's happening right now, instead of saving 4%, they're making 4% of us, the taxpayer, which I'm against. Because instead of BSP buying, building, and saving 4%, they transferred the funds to look good on paper, and then charge us 4% in addition to that. So again, no, my suggestion is, there's incongruence, definitely. Please take a look at that, because the PES should not be used as a way to make themselves look good, but in reality they're outside of their mandate.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Senator Binay.
And then just to add, kasi kung ito-tolerate ng GCG yung ginagawa ng PITC, what's stopping the other? Parang yung ibang corporation na hindi maganda yung financial statement, di mag-shift na lang sila to procurement. Diba? Yung ginagawa mo ng PITC can be copied by other GOCCs.
I understand your point, Madam Senator. Again, these are really two-prong, multi-prong legal issue, because why also that agency is allowed to transfer their procurement to PITC. It's not really the control of GCG why they transfer that funds to PITC for procurement, because based on Executive Order number 133 series of 1987, they were allowed to collaborate, associate in joint venture with any person, association, company, or entity, whether domestic or foreign, the fields of production, marketing, procurement, and other related businesses. This is the basis why they are engaging in procurement. It's not impede the original law, Presidential Decree 1071. It's EO number 133 of series of 187. It's not really GCG, which have the legal say whether they cannot conduct procurement. Deserves their authority under EO number 133 series of 1987, which added their mandate from the original Presidential Decree 1071. So again, this will be a legal issue, really. There is a presumption of constitutionality of EO 133 series of 1987, and if this will be questioned again, I'm not really sure how this will come out. In this legal issue will be brought to the higher court, whether really they can conduct procurement.
Chairman, on top of that, the numerous COA issues. These PITC should not be absolved from those numerous COA issues. And those numerous COA issues are substantial. No, I've read many COA reports, but this COA report with PITC is really beyond, beyond what we can ignore. No, because we're talking about billions and hundreds of millions. No, so this should be reflected in their PES. If you ask me, because of the violation of their mandate and this COA report, they should not be given a high score. No, because that high score basically, in short, makes them look good, and they're doing the right thing. Which I'm just saying, I'm flagging GCG, because GCG should discipline these GOCCs by using the tools under their law, one of which is the PES system.
Uh, I trying to understand your position, Mr. Chairman. That is why in the various COA reports, they're accepting procurement despite there's no terms of preference. It's very glaring in the audit report of COA. Again, based on the 2018 PES of PITC, we set a target for gross revenue and export and import activities at 141 million. You complied also. Their accomplishment is 51 million. Their gross revenue from custom-based boosted banded warehouse, 1.8 billion, but their accomplishment is higher, 2.2 billion. Their revenue from counter trade, our target was 772 million. We got an accomplishment of 337 million. But really the bulk of their income is from revenue from procurement. So again, if there is an issue as to the legality, again, this EO 133 has to be questioned in the proper legal body, whether they can really conduct procurement. But this can be also be without that legal issue going to a higher court. There's a need to really for registration for them not to participate in government procurement.
Well, sana, Chairman, the procurement is also going smoothly, but like what I flashed on the screen, even the procurement is problematic. No? So that's my point is that should not be left unseen through the PES. The PES should detect all of those. No? Like I said, the PES is a good tool. I went through some of the PES of the different GOCCs. It's a good tool, but it's not capturing violations of different GOCCs. That's what I'm driving at. No? And I want the office to look at that. No, I don't have a specific solution right now, but from what I'm getting, no, from looking at the PES, it's not capturing important issues surrounding that GOCC. No? And it's also, I'm just flagging the commission to look at that, no? And to respond to this type of misbehavior from the GOCCs.
We'll do that, and we will recalibrate our the measure regarding this procurement from government agencies.
Chairman, another GOCC that I am tracking, no, because I also concurrently chair the Energy Committee, is the PNOC RC. May we know what is the status of this GOCC? And we've talked about this, actually we talk about this every budget hearing. And this is the third time that we've talked about this. So I just want to get the some feedback on what's happening with PNOC RC.
Director Johan, I think the disposition for its abolition is still with the Office of the President. Director Johan is under your division.
Yes, Mr. Chair. So as reported in the previous budget hearing, we already elevated to the Office of the President last March 2020 the recommendation for the abolition of the PNOC Renewables Corporation. So for the information of the committee, we also submitted to the Office of the President last August of this year information of the ongoing bill proposing to abolish likewise the PNOC RC and the creation of a Chartered Renewables Corporation pending before the House of Representatives, and further informing the Office of the President of the status of the PNOC RC.
Okay. And the financials, Johan, is still bleeding?
Yes, Chair. So still no substantial projects even within 2020 or 2021, Chair, after the date of the recommendation to the Office of the President.
Okay.
When was it recommended to the Office of the President?
The recommendation was elevated to the Office of the President last March 2020, Mr. Senator.
And till date, there's no action yet.
It's still under evaluation specifically by the Office of the Deputy Executive Secretary for General Administration, to which we submit updates and further documentation that they request to aid in their evaluation.
And did GCG, did the OP call upon the GCG to explain or to clarify, or did they any action after March 2020?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. The most recent was last August of this year, where they were asking for certain clarifications regarding the, I think it was separation pay of employees of PNOC RC and whether or not it has any substantial accomplishments after the recommendation was submitted.
Let me, do you have the financials, Director Joan? How much are we going to save if we continue with the abolition?
I'll pull up the information now,
Sige.
Mr. Chairman.
Johan, while you pull out the slides, let's take a 1 minute break.
Not sure if I can share your screen.
All right, let's resume our hearing. Go ahead, Director Johan.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So at least from 2013 to 2020, the PNOC RC was incurring an average net loss of 42 million pesos in 2020, the net loss was 37.91 million. So on average, you'll be saving the government on a year-to-year basis around 42 million in unnecessary expenses or losses.
You said you
So
were summoned to the office of the president to talk about what will happen to the employee. So, can you can you brief us on the situation of the employees post abolition?
So among the effects of abolition, Mr. Chairman, is that the employee shall be separated from service. So among the policies of the GCG and abolishing GOCCs is to recommend to the President a reasonable amount of separation pay to tide over these employees as they move on to their next job. And the Office of the President requested for updates on the policies of GCG regarding separation pay, as well as the status of the corporation after it was recommended for abolition in early part of 2020. So among the information we provided the Office of the President was the losses incurred by the PNOC RC in 2019 and 2020.
So thank you for that update and I would assume that the position of the commission still remains the same, that the abolition should be pursued and approved. Is that correct?
Yes, Mr. Chair. We have not withdrawn that recommendation. Actually, have expressed support in the lower house regarding the abolition of PNOC RC.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that update. And I would like to also talk about one agency that I follow as the chairman of the Energy Committee, which is the National Electrification Administration. And this is one of the things that I noticed because they got a high PES score, performance evaluation system, at the tune of 99.7. But I'm quite confused because their net income is negative. So this is where, again, a source of confusion, because from a financial standpoint, and this is universal, net income is seen as a measure of stability and strength. And net income is any finance person will definitely understand that net income is always a good measure of the financial health of the organization or the corporation. But in this case, it's negative, meaning it's losing money. But yet again, they got a high PES score, a performance evaluation system score. So can you enlighten us again on this phenomenon? Because how can you get a 99% score when your organization is losing 235 million pesos annually? Can you enlighten us on this?
Director Johan will also discuss that one, Mr. Chairman. But again, I'm reiterating, although you get a higher grade, if the DOF will not issue a certification as to dividend remittance, still, you cannot get the performance-based bonus and the performance-based incentive. So that's really yung end kasi niyan, whether the employees there can get performance-based bonus. So with that, they cannot remit dividends remittance. Again, they cannot get the performance-based bonus. But Director Johan will expound more on this one. Director Johan.
But in this particular case, Chairman, they got their bonus. They received their bonus. They were approved to get their bonus. did they get their bonus, their actual bonus for this particular organization?
Dr. Johan?
Yes, Mr. Chair. The NEA obtained a performance-based bonus in 2019. So with respect to the query
I'm not
regarding
for the
why a
but
government
for the record, Director, I'm not pinpointing NEA, but we were looking at all 121 GOCCs, and this caught our attention. No? If you look at the other GOCCs, we went through it one by one. So just enlighten us on why this thing happened.
yes, Mr. Chairman. So to clarify at the very least, just because a government corporation registers a net loss does not necessarily mean it will not be entitled to the performance-based bonus. So there are in fact several GOCCs who are incurring a net loss on a year-to-year basis. So among the performance targets of such GOCCs is to reduce net loss. This is for some classes of GOCCs that incur net loss repeatedly. For certain other classes of corporations, as mentioned by the chairman earlier, the financial metrics of a corporation is not the sole basis for their performance. It is only but one of five specific metrics by which a corporation is measured. So, in particular, NEA, for example, it is provided government appropriations on a year-to-year basis to implement what they call a city electrification program. This is a 5-year program which was implemented since the previous administration, and they have a planned target on a year-to-year basis, and there's a corresponding budget for that in the GAA. So among the primary measures of NEA is the actual implementation of the city electrification program on time, because of course this entails that we provide electricity and lighting to the remote areas of the country, which is one of the hallmarks of the program. Also among the measures by which NEA is measured is the amount of loans it facilitates as well as its efficiency in the facilitating of these loans to electric cooperatives as well as their collection efficiency with respect to the loans facilitated. So these are among the metrics of NEA, for example, but in general, for the GOCC sector, just because a GOCC registers a net loss does not necessarily mean it will not be considered for performance-based bonus.
And also, NEA is performing a social function because there's really some issues here to be properly explained because some GOCs are really designed to do social function. NEA is really for rural electrification. If they perform their various targets, scorecards, to serve the unserved areas for electrification, again, that is taken properly in the scorecard of NEA. There are really GOCCs really for profit oriented, but there are GOCCs really have some social function to perform, which really also as a matrix whether the government provided for the people, especially the power plant barriers and unserved areas for electrification.
You mentioned earlier, Director, there are other GOCCs that receive their PBB but are losing or their net income is negative. What are those GOCCs?
LRTA, LRTA, Mr. Chairman, as well as NTA, which may have registered net losses in 2018, but still were entitled to the performance-based bonus based on the performance of their respective mandates.
The LRTA and NTA. So I guess you're giving more weight in the social mandate of the organization rather than the corporate mandate of the organization. Is that correct?
That would depend on the nature of the corporation, Mr. Chair. So, for example, if you are a government financial institution, like some of the banking institutions, maybe financial perspective might be accorded a higher weight, but based on the mandate of a GOCC, if the social function is much more prevalent, then it's given more weight in their performance scorecard. So the performance scorecard is essentially there to communicate the nature of a GOCC and what are the more primary functions of a corporation as well as its mandate.
Have you identified GOCCs with your so-called social function versus GOCCs that are corporate or profit-oriented in nature? Because the reason why I ask is, to be honest about it, I'm also confused. No, uh, if net income again, no, net income is basic. If you're making money, then you should be given a high score. If you're losing money, then should not be given a high score, let alone bonuses. No, but if you're losing money and then you get bonuses, there's something wrong. There must be something heavier than making money. But in your PES, it's not. There's no classification. Which GOCCs are classified as socially oriented GOCCs, which are classified as they're all lumped. They're all lumped together. So I'm not very sure which one is which.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So essentially, by the nature of a government corporation, they're supposed to be there to serve a social function or government purpose. Otherwise, they should not be retained. That's why among the metrics by which we have in the approved action plan by the Commission just last year is to determine whether or not there's a national welfare interest in retaining a government corporation, which means is it there to serve an underserved sector of society, or is it there as a to provide some countervailing measure to economic forces in that particular industry to provide balance. So these are among the metrics that we will be looking at in terms of retaining GOCCs, because any GOCC that should remain should serve an underlying social purpose and not just for profit. Otherwise, it would be best that the private sector undertake these more commercial activities rather than the government unless it's necessary.
Actually, this is the core of our agreement with the NEDA regarding GOCCs for dispositive action. There's really parameters there which GOCCs to sustain for social function and other the service particular areas of the society, and also those really for financial reason for government to secure additional revenues. We have a balancing act here in the GCG regarding GOCCs for profit and GOCCs really for to serve the various interests and social function of the communities in this country.
No, I get that, Chairman. But what you're seeing what you're seeing is GOCCs such as PAGCOR cannot be compared to GOCCs such as NEA, because PAGCOR clearly is profit oriented, no, and they're geared towards maximizing revenue, as opposed to NEA, which is an organization geared towards electrification. So these are two different. They're both GOCCs but different mandates. My point there is, when for a layman like me, how do I differentiate?
It's really in the nitty-gritty of the PES evaluation. Again, I'll go back to their core function of the GOCC, their mandate. Primarily, if a GOCC cannot perform their core mandate, it's better that GOCC be abolished or privatized or transfer its function to a regular agency. That is the first part of the performance evaluation scorecard per GOCC. And again, it's not a hard and fast rule for how we measure the percentage for a particular scorecard for the different parameters of the scorecard. So that's why ganyan talaga ang how we will perform our performance evaluation scorecard under the GCG. So it's just merely to ask us for us to communicate and properly disseminate our mandate as a government agency regarding oversight of all GOCCs.
Again, what I suggest for the understanding of everyone, including myself and ordinary people, is to look at how this will be communicated or categorized clearly so that we don't lead to confusion. For example, like I showed earlier, the GOCCs that are in black, meaning their net income is positive, then it's very well understood that they should be extended with bonuses. But how do we now choose which one here has more weight on the social responsibility and which ones are profit oriented or more commercially oriented? In this list, it's very difficult. So I don't have a solution right now, but I'm just putting this on the table on how to distinguish which are socially motivated and which are geared towards maximizing profit. I'm just putting this on the table. I don't have a straight answer right now, but this came up when I was reviewing this GOCCs personally. And you get lost in the review because, for example, NEA is a aberration in this list. But what you're saying right now, because it performed its social mandate, that's why they got their bonus. But how do we distinguish that? And who now gives more weight to the social rather than the commercial or the profit side? These are the things that we need to clarify, because what we don't want is the PES to be arbitrary. And that's what I'm driving at. We don't want the PES to be a tool that that can be customized to accommodate certain GOCCs. So, again, I don't have a solution on the table, but I'm just putting that for the commission to look at. How to make us appreciate the different nuances when it comes to implementing the PES. Again, the PES I support. I looked at the matrix, and it's a good tool, albeit you can improve many things, and we can clarify many things so that ordinary people like us will appreciate it at first instance.
That observation, Mr. Chairman, is well taken. I asked Director Johan Barcena and Director Jack Fonseca to consider this one for proper classification or proper distinction as an additional point in how this PES is being performed by GCG. Again, that is a valid observation, Mr. Chairman. And I'm already asking the director concerned to study and look on this matter So the next time we will have some proper classification also why there is as to this uses is under this classification for more on its social function rather than profit oriented.
And lastly, Chairman, I would like to get an update also on the compensation and position classification system. This is part of the law, and it's a very important feature of the law. I know this is really delayed already, because of the pandemic and because of other circumstances. Well, what's the latest on that, and when do we see the implementation of the system?
The last time I heard that it was signed, it will be signed, and they promised me that this will be published within this week. And after that, at the IRR, although we had a crafted IRR, we'll just sync it with the EO because after publication in newspaper, it is now effective, subject to the IRR to be created and published. Although we have a prepared IRR, we need also to comply with the issued EO. So the promise really is they will publish it this week.
Chairman, give us the salient points of this classification system, the compensation and position classification system. I just want to put on record some of the salient points so that our GOCCs and their employees will know what to expect. In fact, some of the association of GOCCs are lobbying to get this approved. No? So what are the salient points of this system?
May I ask Director Karen Parcasio to discuss some matters regarding the proposed CPCS? Director Parcasio? Director Karen? Are you there?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead,
Discuss
Director.
the salient features of this CPCS. Karen?
Chair, the CPCS will now the CPCS actually aims to standardize the compensation for all the GOCCs, including the SSL comfort and the SSL exempt. So with the new CPCS, Mr. Chairman, all GOCCs will now have they will be categorized. They will be categorized into three according to our proposal, depending on the size of the GOCC. And then after their categorization, they will have their respective rates according to our proposed CPCS rates. The Category 1 GOCCs are those GOCCs that are actually receiving funds from the national government, will be categorized similarly to the national government agencies. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, I just came out of the room. So they will have the same rates as that of the salary standardization law covered agencies, like that of the national government agencies. And then, Mr. Chairman, the other benefits, incentives, and allowances will now be standardized such that those allowances, benefits, and incentives being received by the GOCCs that were not previously approved by the President will have to be standardized as well.
Okay.
So,
What is
Director,
Category 2 and Category 3, Karen?
Chair,
Karen,
sorry.
Category 2 and
Chair.
Category 3?
go ahead, Director.
The Category 2 and Category 3 GOCCs, the GOCCs will be categorized according to their different, the criteria that will be used. If they are performing non-commercial activities, they will be categorized under Category 2 GOCCs. If they are performing commercial activities and compete with the private sector, they will be categorized under Category 3. So with that categorization, Mr. Chairman, we are hoping that we will be able to somehow standardize the salaries of these GOCCs according also to the market that they compete with.
Karen?
Yes, Chair.
So there are three categories, categorized GOCCs.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So we have, again, just to recap, the Category 1 GOCCs, those are the GOCCs that receive subsidies from the national government. So they will receive almost the same compensation as those covered by the salary standardization law of the national government. And
Including
then
the
for other
losing GOCCs.
GOCCs that compete with including share the losing GOCCs, they will be included in Category 1.
Okay. And there is also a tiering as to the financial capacity of GOCCs, because not all GOCCs have the same financial capacity. It's more on the income rather than asset. Am I right, Karen?
Yes, Mr. Chair. So after we have categorized the GOCCs, we will also classify them according to their tiers or according to their financials. So it's not enough that they are competing with the private sector, but we will also look into the financial capacity and the assets revenues of the GOCCs.
And all GOCCs will be eligible.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. All
Okay.
GOCCs covered by the GCG will be eligible to apply to the CPCS.
So those who are below the CPCS, their salaries will go up. Is that how it works?
Those we intend, Mr. Chair, that those who are receiving below the salary standardization law of the national government will be at par with that of the national government
Okay.
at the very least.
But how about the ones who are above the CPCS?
Those that are above, currently receiving above the CPCS, because there is the principle of non-diminution, of course, we cannot cut the authorized salaries. But as to their allowances, benefits, and incentives that they are receiving without any authorization, Mr. Chairman, we would have to standardize them for.
Oh, I want to make that clear also. And this is regardless if the GOCC performs their social that the GOCC is heavier on the social mandate side rather than the commercial side. This will be
Yes, Miss.
okay.
Sorry, Mr. Chair. Go ahead, po.
No, I was going to say this is across the board, regardless what type of GOCCs, because from what I'm gathering, there are some GOCCs that are categorized heavily as a social mandated GOCC as opposed to a profit-oriented GOCC.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Actually, the categorization that in the proposed CPCS, we will group them according to whether they are they have their social mandates, whether based on their charters they have to really deliver social services, or whether based on their charters they have to deliver by competing with the private sector. So that is the goal of the CPCS, to categorize them well prior to the standardization of their compensation.
Thank you, Director. Thank you for that update and clarification. And lastly, the corporate governance scorecard of the GCG. I know the objective of this scorecard, but have we implemented this scorecard? And is there such a scorecard, so to speak?
Yes. Again, Director Karen, can you explain on this one? That's under your division, the CSO.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So, Mr. Senator, the purpose of the corporate governance scorecard is for us to elevate the corporate governance standards of the GOCCs and make them at par with the international standards. We just have to clarify, Mr. Chairman, the corporate governance scorecard is entirely different with the performance evaluation scorecard of the GOCCs. The CGS, or the Corporate Governance Corporate Governance Scorecard, refers to the disclosures of the GOCCs in their websites. So wala po itong kinalaman, Mr. Chairman, sa whether nami-meet ba on a yearly basis ng GOCCs yung kanilang mga sinet na targets with GCG. Yun po kasi yung common na misconception, Mr. Chairman, ng ating public and ng GOCCs, that once they have high scores in their CGS, ibig sabihin performing na po ba sila? So we just want to clarify and take this opportunity also to clarify that magkaiba po yun. The CGS, more on the disclosures. Nakikita po ba natin yung mga financial statements ng mga GOCCs sa kanilang mga websites? Nakikita po ba natin yung list ng mga directors sa kanilang websites? So yun po yung ating corporate governance scorecard na nakabase po sa ASEAN scorecard.
Is there a scorecard, so to speak? Because I haven't seen any scorecard. Is there something like PES? No, there's a numeric equivalent of of your scorecard.
Yes, yes, Mr. Chairman. Meron po tayong on a yearly basis. We have the corporate governance scorecard for the GOCC. So mini-measure po natin yung kanilang mga disclosures sa kanilang mga websites. It started po in 2015, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Chairman. And ongoing po siya. So meron po talaga tayong mga scores for the GOCCs na covered po ng RA 10149.
Director, please submit that to us, no? Because again, this is my third chance of presiding your budget, but I've never seen a scorecard. I've read about it. In fact, I used it in some of my deliberations, but I've never seen the scorecard. Unlike the PES, I see it, no, but the scorecard itself, I haven't seen that. Is that published in your website?
I think it used to be available po, but meron lang po kaming mga changes na ginagawa because of the amendment to the CGS Memorandum Circular. But we will of course furnish our office po with the historical data on the corporate governance scorecards of our GOCCs.
I asked my staff if the scorecard, the CGS is published in your website. Apparently, it's not. No? So,
okay
baka
po, noted po.
bumagsak kayo sa scorecard nyo, sa sariling scorecard niyo, because aren't you grading the GOCCs because they have to publish it in their own respective websites? But
Mr. Chair, that's yes, Mr.
but
Chair.
GCG is not publishing in their own website, so baka you might fail it with your own scorecard.
That point is well taken po, Mr. Chair. Chairman Dagbin, sorry.
We are really recalibrating how we'll present that in our website.
Again, I support that. I support the corporate governance scorecard. I came from the private sector, so I had some exposure in that. And again, it's another tool, no, for transparency and integrity. Let's publish that in your website. In the meantime, send us the numerical equivalent of that scorecard, and so that we can study that. But I strongly suggest that you publish that in your website, just like the PES. No, I saw the PES in your website.
Noted po, Mr. Chair.
So with that, I don't have any more questions to the GCG. Chairman, any last words before I endorse your budget?
Hopefully, we explained properly various concerns of your committee, and I'm very thankful for not only you, sir, for bearing with us despite some of our issues of GCG. I also thank Senator Nancy Binay for participating in this committee hearing, and hopefully the budget of GCG will be properly endorsed and defended in the plenary. And I'm very thankful with you, sir, for supporting us, and we will submit the various documents and data you required, and the observation you've made today And I already, considering my team also is here, as promised, we will do our best to comply with your observation and directives. Thank you, sir, and thank you for this honorable committee of the Senate of the Philippines.
Thank you, Chairman, Commissioner. And let me just remind the Commission to submit to us, number one, breakdown in timetable of the 23 million unspent 2020 budget, breakdown in time, number two, breakdown in timetable of the 69 million unspent 2021 budget, and number three, legislative measures to improve the liquidation of assets and to further improve and empower the GCG. So those are the three items. And number four pala, the GCG, the corporate governance scorecard that was mentioned earlier. So 4 items. And this is probably my last stint to chair your budget, Chairman, as a senator. And like I mentioned before, with all due respect, we can improve further, the performance of GCG itself, by hastening the process of abolition and hastening the process of the other tools that GCG can use, such as PES, mergers and privatization. But I'm very particular with abolition because I really feel that we should continue to downsize unproductive organization. So there are a lot of things that you can improve, and my honest evaluation is GCG is not as what I expect. And that's why I am requesting for improvements, or suggestions or legislative measures to further strengthen GCG. So with that, I'm endorsing this the GCG's budget to plenary for further deliberation, subject to the requirement that this committee mentioned earlier. So with that, we are suspending the hearing of this agency. So with that, thank you very much, Chairman. Thank you very much to the team of GCG. And we'll expect you at plenary, just like what we have done the last 3 years.
Thank you, sir. Thank you to also to Senator Binay.